The Politics podcast is brought to you, as always, by patreon.com/JURY. It's where you can go ahead and support this very show. Man, whenever the month flips over, there's always this little moment where I worry that everybody is going to realize that they have a million other things that they need to be paying for. And you guys are always... you always surprise me. So thank you to everybody who supported our show. We took Labor Day off for politics, but we did post the episode from Dragon Con. So go ahead, kick any amount of money that you would like for 4 solid hours of content per week. You pay once, you get 4 hours of content at patreon.com/JURY. But enough about the show. Let's talk about how we pay for the show. Let's talk about how we do the show. We're going to do the show. Everybody, we're doing the show.
Politics. Yes.
Who's talking politics? Welcome, everybody. This is the Wednesday, September 7th edition of the Politics podcast. My name is Justin Robert Young. Not going to lie to you, the biggest story in politics today is the Apple keynote. So we are going to do our best to not only bring you all the latest in politics, all the recap from Labor Day weekend. This is officially crunch time. In the words of Kevin McAllister, this is it. Don't get scared now. This is when the rubber meets the road in the political season. And everybody's talking about the headphone jack on the new iPhone. Will there be no mini headphone jack anymore? Will there be a newly refreshed Apple Watch 2? Will I buy both of them, whether or not they literally tell me that they'll be radioactive and I will die? Yes. If any Apple news breaks during the show, we've got our chat realm right here below us. If you are watching on the YouTube or if you are watching along with us live at diamondclub.tv, they will be watching both. And any interesting thing that happens in the Apple keynote, they will let us know to let us know, and I will pass it along to you, anybody who is watching on podcast or YouTube, 2 mediums in which you have probably already read everything that's going to happen. So let's go ahead and move into the politics of the day. As I mentioned, Labor Day comes and goes, and I think what we saw over the last 4 days was an exceptional festival of navel gazing. A lot of navel gazing. A lot of, I don't know, maybe there's this, maybe there's that. Turns out that, the polls, as they have been for about a week and a half, are kind of tightening. So now there becomes a lot of hand-wringing. And I'm going to get into one article that really just got my goat. But before I do want to point out a big shout-out to a listener to this show who has done the Lord's work in trying to spread the word. All right? Here, I'm going to see if I can bring this up. This is my Reddit inbox, and you can see that in the AMA of Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, user IBKIN, asked the following question to the 2 libertarian candidates. You've said money in politics is not a problem as long as it's transparent, but how can voters know if the contributions will lead to pay to play? Also, will you lead the way in being more transparent about your own campaign contributions? Good question. Number 2, would you consider doing your own version of fireside chat as president to address current events in an informal manner? Would you consider starting them now and continuing throughout the campaign? Good question. Number 3, do you have a six-pack? I'm asking this on behalf of Justin R. Young and the Politics podcast. Now that, my friends, that is the grassroots movement that we are looking to build right here on this show. So I am very, very excited. I'm super pumped that somebody would go out of their way. I will recognize each and every one of these as they come in. So go ahead and email me. I found this one through Reddit. So if you want to shout me out, I am you, Justin R. Young. I will find it. I will see whether or not you are mentioning me on Reddit. So go ahead, keep up fighting the good fight and finding out whether or not we've ever had a president with a six-pack. Now, a lot of people to that point have been sending me a picture of I believe, first term President Barack Obama in Hawaii in what looks like a six-pack. But I've only ever seen the one photo, and it's a very heavily shadowed photo. So I'm not saying that Barack Obama's out of the running. I'm just saying I need more evidence than the one photo that everybody sent me. I don't know. And if Barack Obama's it, then good. We found the one. Are there others? Questions that we need to ask. All right. Let's get into the big news of the day. It's not about Donald Trump. It's not about Hillary Clinton. It's, of course, about the media's favorite topic, the media. I want to ask a question. All right, and this is serious. When can we stop talking about the things that we should stop talking about? I'll break this down. When do we get to the point where we can criticize information without saying that the information shouldn't exist? This came up in my head because of two articles specifically. One from somebody whose work I very much enjoy, and one from somebody whose work that I find a little bit weirder. Here's the first one. This is from Chris Cillizza of the Washington Post. He writes the following. Can we stop talking about Hillary Clinton's health now? Now, he makes a really good point here. Number one, I love the Drudge Report. It is something that I have found a fascination with since I've had the internet. I have once a day, if not multiple times a day, checked the Drudge Report. And I recommend everybody do it. It is necessary reading to understand the political landscape. I'm not saying you got to like Matt Drudge. I'm not saying you got to hate Matt Drudge. I'm saying you got to read Matt Drudge because for whatever reason he has embedded himself throughout the fabric of American politics. But at the same time, if you're going to react to a Matt Drudge headline, then the issue is with you and not Matt Drudge. So Matt Drudge is obsessed with Hillary Clinton's coughing. They want to make Hillary Clinton's health an issue. Why? Well, it's simple. Right now, Hillary Clinton is running on a campaign that Trump is, he's radioactive, he's toxic, he's unelectable. One of the time-honored traditions of issues that make you unelectable is being too infirmed to be the president. It wasn't like Barack Obama was shying away from the fact that John McCain would have been the oldest dude to hold the Oval Office when they were running against each other in 2008. Wasn't like people weren't bringing up Ronald Reagan's age when he was running for president. This is just a thing. I mean, and conservatives have had this boner about Hillary Clinton's health for a long time. This is an example as the tension gets ratcheted up. that they're going to make a bigger deal about it. And on stage, she's had some choking fits where she's like coughed and coughed and coughed. And so now people are making a big deal about it. Among them, the inimitable Matt Drudge. Donald Trump, of course, jumped on the case with a tweet. Mainstream media never covered Hillary's massive hacking or coughing attack, and yet it's #1 trending. What's up? I love that. What's up? Hey, dog, what's up? Oh, crap, what up? Is that boy coughing their way through a speech? Now, Crystalliza makes the argument that we should stop talking about it for two reasons. Number one, it's not a story, and number two, for another reason I'm going to bring up after this. But let's deal with the idea that it's not a story, that there are certain things that are not a story. Because inside journalism circles, this is a conversation that happens all the time. It's part of the trade. What should you put effort into tracking down and reporting? And then what is the threshold that should make it into the paper or the blog or the TV show? But I don't find a lot of utility in it beyond a very insular shop talk. Because there's a million things that are all very, very, very boring about deciding what stories should get run. And if people want to really dig into that, then that's fine. But very often, the fact that a story should or shouldn't be run is just code for I don't think that this story is going to help the person that I am more politically aligned with. And if that's the case, then there's really just only one thing to say. Reporting is not supposed to make anybody feel better. Reporting is supposed to make people more informed. Now, here's where the quibble comes in. Because what Crystalliza is making the argument with here in a soft way, and this next article I'm going to talk about makes it in a more explicit way, is that stories that do not meet a certain threshold make the electorate less informed as opposed to more informed. And this is where we have a philosophical difference of opinions. Because I do believe that every piece of information makes us more informed. And that, by the way, if we're going to rail against the dying of that light, there will only ever be more and more and more information that hits us. We will only ever be more inundated with it. So if we want to get into a really pedantic argument about whether or not we are getting dumber or smarter because there's more information hitting us, then by that philosophy, we will always be getting dumber because we will only be getting greater and wider fractions of information. Because, by the way, there was never a point where we got full, gigantic, whole truths of information. This bygone era where people were able to work really, really hard and really get down to it and finally deliver a great final product is nostalgia. It's sepia tone nonsense. The same kind of bias, the same kind of sloppiness, the same kind of outright lies that can make its way into our news stream now happened then. The only difference is it was harder to correct and people could sweep things under the rug and they can't now. So if somebody, like let's say Matt Drudge, let's say the AP about the Clinton Foundation wants to hang their ass over the side of the windowsill because they got something wrong on a story, the only difference is before they used to be able to pull their ass back up before anybody could see it, where now someone's going to get a big old paw on it and everyone's going to laugh. Does that make sense? So here's the reason why I like this article by Crystalliza is his point is that this is a loser issue for Donald Trump. That Donald Trump should be focusing more on issues that draw clear definitions between him and Hillary. And the health thing isn't really that big of a deal because Donald Trump does not look healthier than Hillary Clinton. And also, he doesn't want to get into an issue where they're comparing who wrote their medical recommendations because Hillary's came on very, very thick paper written in calligraphy, and Donald Trump's came scrawled on the back of a ticket to a Muse show. So what is the article that drove me up a wall? This is the article that drove me up a wall. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you, if you are not already familiar, with New York Times op-ed columnist Paul Krugman. I'm gonna go ahead and just read part of the Krug Dogs article here. I don't know if a few people might have seen it. Anybody in the chat room who saw this over the weekend? Who saw this? Who saw this article? Just say yes or no. It drove me nuts. Let's go ahead and read Krugman in his own words. Americans of a certain age who follow politics and policy closely still have vivid memories of the 2000 election. Bad memories. And not just because the man who lost the popular vote somehow ended up in office. For the campaign leading up to that endgame was nightmarish, too. Bum, bum, bum. You see, one candidate, George W. Bush, was dishonest in a way that was unprecedented in U.S. politics. Most notably, he proposed big tax cuts for the rich while insisting, in raw denial of arithmetic, that they were targeted for the middle class. These campaign lies presaged what would happen during his administration, an administration that, let us not forget, took Americans to war on false pretenses. Yet, throughout the campaign, most media coverage gave the impression that Mr. Bush was a bluff, straightforward guy, while portraying Al Gore, whose policy proposals added up and whose critiques of Mr. Bush's plan were completely accurate, as slippery and dishonest. Mr. Gore's mendacity was supposedly demonstrated by trivial anecdotes, none significant, and none of them and some of them simply false. No, he never claimed to have invented the internet, but the image stuck. And right now, I and many others have the sick, sinking feeling that it's happening again. All right, let's go ahead and get out the things that I like about this article. Paul Krugman goes on to talk about a very, very terrible habit in political reporting to use terms like cast a shadow on. And just a lot of really, here we go. If reports about a candidate talk about something raising questions, create shadows, or anything similar, be aware that these are all too often weasel words used to create the impression of wrongdoing out of thin air. I 110% believe this. I also think that these kinds of words have been used about Donald Trump just as much, if not more, than Hillary Clinton. I think that they are good for political opinion makers, right? For op-ed columnists like Paul Krugman, they're bad for beat journalism kinds of stories, and all too often they are used liberally. Now let's get into what I don't like. I don't like this bizarre memory hole interpretation of what happened during the 2000 election. I also don't like the fact that, God, man, the media, and I'm gonna try to be better about this, because I don't want to say just the media, because the media is kind of a stupid, useless term. But reporters and members of mainstream media outlets love to think that they have an outsized influence on who will vote for who, and I don't think that it's true. I think that it's far overstated. Specifically, I think that people vote based on a million different things, and that they get a lot of different messages, and they cling on to the ones that they have the most affinity for. Sure, that means that on some level they might get that message by way of a report, or by way of somebody or a group, a herd mentality of reporters chasing down a specific issue. But I don't believe that this... All right, so here we go. George W. Bush, dishonest and unprecedented. Okay, so we'll give him his opinion there. George W. Bush, the biggest liar on the planet, and Al Gore, greatest man on earth, right? But when was Al Gore portrayed as slippery and dishonest? Did I miss that? Did I miss the slippery and dishonest part? Kind of a blowhard, maybe, but not slippery and dishonest. Nixon was slippery and dishonest. If anything, you could say Hillary has a reputation of being slippery and dishonest more than Al Gore did in 2000. If anything, the parallel was kind of bully jock glue sniffer versus boring nerd. Maybe he was gay in college. Like that was the media portrayal of the two of them. Was one was frat boy and the other was tree hugger. And also, am I just like inventing this whole thing where where George W. Bush got a free ride when it came to the press coverage in the 2000 election? Was that just, am I just inventing? Let's just go back. Remember we were talking about Chris Cillizza of the Washington Post. Let's go ahead back to this story. Bush once pled guilty to DUI. This was less than a week before Election Day. Friday, November 3rd, 2000, Fox News reported that George W. Bush had indeed pled guilty to DUI when he was 30 years old. It was something that he had not specifically disclosed, and he had to come clean on less than a week before people voted. So there we go. That's the free ride. That's the media just bluff, straightforward guy who had to plead guilty to a DUI that was a surprise 5 days before the election. Oh, wait, hold on. Are we also talking about the election where that slippery and dishonest Al Gore, which is totally fabricated, where he lost the election tactically? Al Gore was the vice president to a popular lame duck two-term president who he happened to personally hate. Sure, they were close to the impeachment situation, but by and large, Bill Clinton, especially amongst Democrats, especially in states like Florida, was very popular. How much did Al Gore go out on the stump with Bill Clinton? Not a whole lot. Go ahead and look that one up. He did not utilize the Clintons. He did not put the Clintons out to work for him. He decided to make that story about himself and himself only. He wanted to minimize what he thought was a liability. That, as it turns out, in a razor-thin election, was a mistake. Al Gore lost the election. It wasn't because the media made him look a certain way. There were plenty of ways that he could have won, and he didn't. I get it, man. When things are close, sometimes you want to point to any and everything. But I just don't see it. And I don't think that this is some end-all, be-all. I also don't think that we should be thinking about what shouldn't be said. I think everything should be said. Now, you should criticize information. Like, the AP came out with this whole thing about the Clinton Foundation, about who donated money and who got to see Hillary Clinton. And then there was a big, long, #long read on Vox.com about how that reporting was flawed. Great! Would it have been better if the AP had not written it? I don't think so. I think we should have more information and not less. And here's the point to the partisans. Where my hill dogs at? Where my hill dogs at? Give me some. Where my Hillary fans? Hill dogs. What y'all really want? What y'all really want? Don't blame the media. Don't don't get into this trap where you're defending the Clinton Foundation. You want to know why this Clinton Foundation thing is a story? Because the Clinton Foundation came out and said that if Hillary Clinton was president, they would no longer take foreign money. That's why. It's not because people wanted to be mean. It's not because people wanted to be, people wanted to pick on her. It's not because they wanted to reinforce an age-old stereotype. It's because the Clinton Foundation came out and said, we're not going to take foreign money if Hillary's president. And so then there became a reasonable question. Well, if it's bad then, why is it cool now? I don't think that's unfair. Now, where people go from that is up to them. And certainly this has become a partisan football that everybody else wants to throw around. But if you want Hillary Clinton to get elected, stop talking about it. Because you don't want this to be something that people are thinking about. Because there is that question. The question is, why is it cool now? And there's not a really great answer for it. This also doubles down to the fact that Hillary has effectively been in a turtle shell for the past 3 weeks raising money. And Donald Trump has been far more active, and Donald Trump has not been like, a Yosemite Sam, 2 guns pointed at his feet, shooting himself in his toes. From this little piggy to roast beef. So now the polls are tightening. We're going to see how Hillary Clinton reacts going forward. But I don't think that this Hillary, here's what you don't want. Here's what you don't want. You don't want, let's go back and read more of this Paul Krugman article. Let's see if we can give it a little soundtrack here. True. There aren't many efforts to pretend that Donald Trump is a paragon of honesty. But it's hard to imagine the impression that he's being graded on a curve. If he manages to read from a teleprompter without going off script, he's being presidential. If he seems to suggest that he wouldn't round up all 11 million undocumented immigrants right away, he's moving into the mainstream. And many of his multiple scandals, like what they appear to be clear payoffs to state attorney generals, are to back up investigating Trump University, get remarkably little attention.
Here I come to save the day. That means that Mighty Mouse is on the way.
Oh, wait, hold on, wait. I think I got one more. Step back for a moment and think what that foundation is about. When Bill Clinton left office, he was a popular, globally respected figure. What should he have done with that reputation? Raising large sums for charity that saves the lives of poor children sounds like a reasonable, virtuous course of action. And the Clinton Foundation, by all accounts, a force for good in the world.
Leave Brittany alone! Please.
I mean, you can be a fan. It's just like, be smart. Be smart. This is not the thing to fight on. Fighting the media is not the thing to fight on. Talk about Donald Trump's listen, he's the most unpopular, least qualified person to run for president at this late stage of the game in modern American history. There's plenty to pick on. Just in the on-the-record stuff. If you start, and I'm talking to the Hill Dogs. Hey, hey, hey. Talking to the Hill Dogs. Focus on the person across the aisle from you. Because if you start focusing on the media, that is the road to Chokesville. I will guarantee you that. If Hillary Clinton is focusing more on these other issues, on defending the record on stuff like that, and not on Donald Trump, then you were going to see her go down in history as the biggest choke artist in politics ever. She will be synonymous with choking it down. And I'm not just talking about the hacking that is like 90 minutes of every, a 60-minute Sean Hannity show. Just focus on the guy on the other side of the aisle. Because this Paul Krugman thing, and I saw smart people sharing it, I thought it was embarrassing. I think it's an embarrassing column by him. And I'm not a huge fan of his. And again, Paul Krugman is a respected person, far more respected than me. He is part of the political circus, and I'm just the rodeo clown dealing meth in the parking lot. But come on. All right, guys, it is Monday, which means it's Map Monday. Let's go ahead and take a look. Today's map, today's state that we are going to be taking a look at is New Hampshire. New Hampshire became a swing state in both national and local elections in 1992. The state supported Democrats Bill Clinton in 92 and 96, John Kerry in 2004, and Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. It was the only state in the country to switch from supporting George W. Bush in the 2000 election to supporting his Democratic challenger in the 2004 election, when John Kerry, a senator from neighboring Massachusetts, won the state. So where are we at now? Well, it seems kind of in play. Let's take a look at two polls. The first one is from August 9th it's Map. All right, we didn't do a show on Monday, so we're going to do a show on Wednesday. I know, it's Map Wednesday. It's Map Wednesday, it's not Map Monday. So, yeah, sue me. Whatever. This is my first show of the week, and so we're going to do it on Wednesday. Let's take a look at some of the most recent polls. We have August 9th through September 1st, a SurveyMonkey poll. That is 1,218 registered voters, a .73 margin of error. That has Clinton up 6. But meanwhile, an August 12th to September 1st Ipsos poll with 131 likely voters, a .26 margin of error, has Trump up 1. Now, why does New Hampshire matter? Map Men's Day. Yes, thank you. New Hampshire doesn't really matter in terms of the electoral vote because it only has 4. But what it does mean, it's more of a symptom state, right? If New Hampshire is going for Trump, it means that he is doing well with northeastern blue-collar voters. He's got enough of those to turn out in a tiny sample size. He needs, so I guess here's my point. If he is to win Pennsylvania, which he needs to win, because if you're going to look at his strengths, it's blue-collar voters, and Pennsylvania's got him in spades, then he will likely win New Hampshire as well. Like, it's the same thing that if Hillary Clinton wins Georgia, she'll almost certainly win North Carolina. Because North Carolina has more of a reputation for that kind of voting pattern than Georgia. So keep an eye on New Hampshire. New Hampshire's not it's not the most important, but for Donald Trump, it kind of is. Because also, Corey Lewandowski, who's, now 3 campaign chairmen ago, his home base was in New Hampshire. So theoretically, if he's got a street team anywhere, it's in the live free or die hard state of New Hampshire. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get into your emails. You can email theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Got a bunch of great emails. Let me actually, real quick, just touch on, I was watching Donald Trump's national security speech. Has anybody noticed that he's got this husk going on? Like, usually, before, the Donald Trump impression was always like, bah, bah, bah. Like it was high. It was like a bouncing, like, ma, ma, da, ba, ma, da, ma. Now it's like down. It's lower. It's lower. Donald Trump's got this like, yeah, da, ba, yeah, ba, da, ba, da, ba, ba, da, ba, da, ba. That's it. It's very low. It's very husky. You've got these people, and they're out there, and they are coming. And when they come, they're not going to be bringing pizzas. They're going to be bringing death and destruction. I promise you. I promise you that. That's a promise. They call me Promise Trump because I make promises. I promise that this promise is going to be a great promise. Oh, JC Calhoun says Trump ASMR. All right, are you ready? Are you guys ready? We're gonna have to cut it out. Maybe, yeah. Buck R.I. suggests he's taking mad vape rips. Hey, listen. Question again. All coverage is good coverage. Is Donald Trump taking mad vape rips? We should look into it. All right, here we go. This is Trump ASMR. Are you guys ready for Trump ASMR? Let's go ahead and get this. Let's get some mood lighting here. All right, here we go. All right, there we go. So there we go. That is Trump ASMR. We're gonna have to cut that out, and everybody can spread that around the internet. There we go. All right, emails. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Justin writes in, the Angry Whopper should be the race to 150% prize synergy. I think we got to we have to do one of those big public those big public, like everybody signs it things, right? We got to do one of those like United We Stand, that we want a coalition of fast food restaurants to offer free food should the candidates get to 150% combined unfavorable. I feel like that's the next step, because we got to take this one to the streets. But I'm down. Yeah. Arby's, Taco Bell, and Burger King with the Angry Whopper. I mean, like, imagine what that would be. You'd be going around to all your favorite fast food restaurants and collecting a nice little lunch. It's the least we can do for you as America, that you have to elect somebody that you clearly hate. Drown your hate with fast food. It's the American way. Ned from Sydney writes, in your last show, somebody asked you what you were going to do with the show after the election, and you mentioned that you were not really interested in the day-to-day mess of the political process. Well, if it's elections you're interested in, there are plenty of interesting elections happening all over the place. And I would love to continue to pay you to hear about the horse race in the Brazil or the UK. What do you say? Thank you so much, Ned from Sydney. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of questions, but no, you're right. If I'm just still doing this as a podcast, then I don't know how much heart I have to continue to talk about Congress, because I love presidential politics, but there are few things that I hate more than watching congressional politics. All right. John, the campaign staffer turned PhD student, says, I saw the new CNN poll that has Trump ahead nationally. Moments later, I saw the political journalism echo chamber breathlessly rushing to be the first to put out takes so hard they could power a nuclear reactor. As a former and most likely future campaign staffer who probably isn't voting for any presidential candidate, I have some thoughts. He then gives a lot of thoughts that are similar to the philosophy of this show. up to and including that state polls don't necessarily matter, and ultimately, national polls don't matter. All that matters is state polls. He wraps up with this. State-by-state polls are really all that matters, follows the mechanics of an election. National polls are about news, cycles, optics, and PR, all things that can and will be controlled and spun by the campaigns. There is a larger discussion about how this PR hit is coming just as the most voters start to pay attention, but it's I've already gone on for a bit of a treatsy, and I'm sorry about that. I would be very surprised if the data people in this campaign treat this poll and the hot take coming after it as anything genuinely meaningful. Now, John, I mean, I don't know where you're watching. I know, 24-hour cable news tends to J.O. about a lot of this kind of stuff, but I don't see a lot of people. I think the one he's talking about is the CNN ORC poll that has Trump ahead nationally by like 2 points. It is notable that it's the first time this has happened since the conventions. And there is something amongst the statistical data quant set that says, well, national polls are valuable in that they are taken more often than state polls. And so in between you getting hard data on state polls, you can generally assume that you are getting a sense of possible momentum. But you're right. These are not something we should not be. I didn't mention it today, for the record. I did not mention. And by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed this. This is a show that is as silly as you can get, that reads polls in strip club DJ voices, that just spent a solid 5 minutes doing Trump ASMR. But I don't read national polls. I don't tell you that you should pay attention to the CNN ORC poll. Because I don't think that they're really all that interesting. I think that the better way to look at things is by getting into state-by-state polls and finding out which states mean what to the general election map. So I agree with you. But keep writing in, because I very much enjoyed your opinion. Noisemaker Joe writes in, I would like to think that I'm a political pragmatist, but what I think I am is politically impatient. As a member of the All or Nothing Party, I liked Sanders because I have student loans and I work in an industry that has no intentions of ever giving me any sort of full-time benefits before I turn 26. Yay, broadcasting. So Sanders sounded pretty dope to me. What with all the universal health care and student loan forgiveness and whatever fairy dust he was offering to me and my fellow dirty millennials. But that's all a dumb dream. And I think a lot of Sanders supporters like me knew it. We'd vote for socialist utopia if we could, but come on. Johnson is attractive because while I would like to live in a place that is comfortable and awesome, as we all imagine Norway to be, I still hate taxes and parking tickets and not being able to buy acid at Walgreens. I like the idea of a socially liberal dude who will let my trans friends do their thing while just getting the government out of the way. I don't say this because I'm some big fan of fiscal conservatism, but more because I'm a self-assured 23-year-old white dude who wants fewer people telling me what I can and can't do. That's probably the most informed reason to vote for somebody, but I live in Michigan, and the Electoral College will absorb my vote anyway. Yup. Democracy! Yeah! Callum from Australia, but now living in Missouri, says, listening to Wednesday's show, you were talking about the lead up to the debate. One suggestion was that Hillary might be trying to rev up Donald Trump by baiting him in the lead up so that he comes out swinging for the first punch. This reminded me of a scene from my favorite reality show, not starring the Donald himself, and that is Survivor. Specifically, Survivor Season 9, Vanuatu. This was won by a guy called Chris against a loudmouth redneck female road construction worker named Twilla. On the last day before the final tribal council, Chris spends the whole day baiting Twilla, saying how everybody on the jury did her wrong, how she played her own game, and even though she lied straight up to their faces, that was their problem, not hers. Chris's mission, wind Twilla up and watch her go. The result at tribal council is that Twilla does indeed come out very aggressive, further alienating herself from the jury. At the same time, Chris is apologetic, remorseful, humble. After about 3 questions, Twilla realizes she made a huge mistake, but by then it was too late. Chris won Survivor Vanuatu. All right, New bit alert. I want everybody to send me tortured pop culture metaphors for this election. The most tortured pop culture metaphors you can find. I want to see them. Send them in. The Young American at gmail.com. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Jamison says, I am a bit behind, but congrats on the move to 3 days a week. The reason I'm behind is I spent 4 days in the woods of West Virginia drinking and shooting shotguns with a bunch of political operatives in honor of a friend's bachelor party. The big insight is red or blue, the want class, the actual campaign staffers, the vendors, the congressional staff still want to compromise and work together. That and just drink so much Miller Lite. Maybe Trump torpedoing this election will push out the crazies and leave the adults in charge. Do not mention anything so sacrilegious to this podcast ever again, Jameson. I love that you wrote in, but I need the crazies. Do you know what kind of show I do? And finally, Anonymous was writing, I was wondering your thoughts on if the country is just too big to be governed effectively. I know nothing significant will probably change in our lifetimes, but it seems like the federal government in its existing states isn't agile enough to respond to countrywide issues. Anonymous, I agree completely, and I know somebody else who would agree with you wholeheartedly. His name is Alexander Hamilton, and he raps. Email theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Buy The Contender at thecontender.us. And, of course, music is provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. Follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. By the way, let's go ahead and get these plugs in because I totally forgot them during the show. Stickers or DIAF, new sticker packs. Available right now, $5 will get you 7 vinyl stickers that you can stick on the inside or the outside of anything that you want. Go ahead and find it right now. $5. Ships all over the world. It is stickers or DIAF. And The Contender. Go ahead and buy it. It is great. The party game that everybody is talking about. You're going to want it for your debate parties. For your debate parties, you're going to need The Contender. Thecontender.us. And anytime on either of those sites at checkout, if you use our diamond little logo that is less than greater than, I will sign what you buy. Also, big apologies to Australia. I've been saying that we now ship to the UK, Canada, and Australia, and that is true, except for some reason on the back end of our site, there was not offering an Australian shipping option. That has changed. Aussies, Aussie. Go ahead in there and get The Contender. I will personally make sure that anybody ordering to Australia gets a special gift because I screwed up and I was telling you a lie, and you can now order it. Please go ahead and try. That is thecontender.us.
Politics.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back on Friday. We got a new pole dance. Thanks to everybody that came on out to DragonCon. Until next week.
Politics, yes.
Remember, some shows talk about politics. Some shows talk about politics, but this is the only show that really talks about politics. There's a new Apple Watch. Hooray!
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Holy crap, there's Mario on iOS?